Greetings interwebs, it's Jack and Kenny, and welcome for another edition of the Pokemon Go Fireside Chat. Hey, I'm actually doing a full-form podcast 2 months in a row. Hopefully the editorials I've been uploading in the meantime have been enjoyable to watch too, though. I'm hoping to keep up with the whole every other week of podcasting sort of schedule. I think what I got is pretty good so far. Have something at the beginning of the month that's full-fledged, talks about current events and things to look out for, and a few additional thoughts and all, and then have an editorial in the middle of the month. And I'm trying to keep that Monday slot filled. If you've been watching these on the YouTube channel, you may have already noticed, but I recently started up a new series called Game and Chill, which is just me playing a video game, preferably the most mindless thing I can think of to do, and just rambling about how my day was, and if I can think of any productive topics from current events in my life, then I pretty much turn it into a tangent about that. It's an interesting series if you just want a more casual, laid-back format and just hear what's on my mind, whatever it may be. That's something worth checking out. If you're listening on the audio format, well, one, I'll try to include a link to my YouTube channel in the show notes, but two, I didn't go ahead and let me know if you'd be interested in hearing something like that in podcast form. It should be easy enough to turn into podcast form. I just don't know how the best way to go about implementing it, because I don't think it'd be Pokemon Go related enough to include in the main Fireside Chat streamline, but I don't know if I would have the capability to make it its own separate thing. Plus, I'll admit, I've been at the cheap side of the podcast, just doing the most free format I can get on SoundCloud possible, when I'm pretty sure most other podcasts that actually take themselves seriously would, fork over a little bit of cash to actually keep their entire archive, instead of, like me, where I have just pretty much the first four things, and then oops, you ran out of space, you gotta delete the other stuff. All those people didn't see the last stuff, too bad. Maybe they can at least see it on YouTube. I'll admit, I just haven't really been able to hit that button and just make the financial commitment. The time commitment's there, but the financial commitment is not as cheap as it may be, because I am cheap. I'm just trying to save up money to move out on my own and try to get something working in this YouTube scene. But I think money's something we can talk about for another time. The whole point of doing a recording session before the weekend, where I prefer to actually do the podcast recording so things are less likely to become outdated, was so I could actually feel less time pressure to squeeze it all in that short of a time frame. And if I keep rambling like this, I don't know, you guys may get a longer episode, but it's gonna just take me longer to get it out, which may defeat the whole purpose. So let's get into things. We'll start with the per usual skin for the Go Ranger app, and go from there. And I'll be sure to try to leave out time-sensitive stuff that be expiring before the following week, when you guys be hearing this, and keep it simple like that. June 18th is not for a couple weeks now, right? Right. For one, the Cresselia raids that started a few days ago are going to be continuing onwards until June 18th, per the usual time that these sorts of events expire. Man, June field research is still a thing. And just today, as I'm recording this on Tuesday, we got the reveal of Adventure Week 3.0. And I'll probably talk a little bit about that later, because I do have some thoughts on Adventure Week. Thoughts that have at least laid up since the event was first announced, but thoughts nevertheless. As for upcoming events, upcoming events that'll still be relevant when I do round 2 of this recording, which means we're skipping Cresselia Raid Hour. Hope you guys found out about that via app notifications or something. Now, I will bring it up because I do got some things to talk about it if we got the time. But that's more so my thoughts regarding how they've been handling these raid hours lately. Let's see, Slakoth Community Day is this Saturday at 3 p.m. So, assuming life doesn't throw any monkey wrenches in my way, which honestly I feel may still happen, I'll actually be able to enjoy this whole community day, and I may actually go early or stay late just to spend a little more time with people beyond just going after Slakoth. Again, I got this gut feeling just with how busy I've been for this month and July that's not going to be the case, but who knows. And it's not like Slakoth Day is going to be the worst thing to miss out on. It's just one of the bonuses is decreased hatch time for egg incubating and all that. So between that and the whole Adventure Week rewards, I really want to take advantage and actually hit that 50 kilometers Adventure Sync reward this week in particular. More on that in a sec though. Let's see. Oh yeah, GoFest is coming up in a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I really want to talk about that because it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great even if you can't go. But it's just so awkward for the situation I'm in with it. And that's all I really want to say about it for now. Oh, I almost glossed over it because I thought it's the same thing, but according to Go Ranger, there's going to be a second Corsellia raid hour that won't be out by the time this podcast goes out. That particular one will be Wednesday, June 12th. And both these raid hours are taking place at 6 p.m. So that's worth keeping in mind. Kyogre raids, for one, they come into... Kyogre will be replacing Corsellia during that June 18th window. And Kyogre's going to have a legendary raid hour the following day on June 19th at 6 p.m. And as well as June 26th at 6 p.m. Are you noticing a pattern yet? When Kyogre raids go away on the 27th, Groudon will be taking his place. And for some reason, Go Rangers isn't really talking about Groudon raid days or raid hours, even though I'm sure it's a thing. Unfortunately, I don't have those sources handy. Okay, I did a bit of web browsing, and I'm pretty sure I know why things are lined up in the Go Ranger app the way they are. I completely forgot that the reason that the Go Ranger app lists out legendary raid hours for Corsellia and Kyogre was because Niantic announced that they were going to have legendary raid hours every Wednesday for the month of June. And they didn't announce anything for July, which I believe is when Groudon comes into the scene. Well, technically it comes right at the end of June. So I guess that would be why it hasn't gotten a legendary hour announced. Maybe it will. We'll get that announcement coming up in the future. But if not, at least we had that Earth Day event. Overall, I see why people aren't as excited about this, and how some people could be a little disappointed that this is pretty much going to be our grand summer lineup. On one hand, we did get a new shiny legendary in the form of Corsellia. On the other hand, we've got two legendaries that had a pretty prominent time out in the sun already to follow it up. And honestly, Corsellia, unless you're going for a very specific niche, aka Great League, in PvP, I can see why Corsellia isn't too valuable from the meta standpoint, and most people will be raiding for Corsellia only to really try to find the shiny of it. I think Groudon and Kyogre aren't too bad, but I know I'm in the minority with that opinion. I don't know, when I think about it, both Kyogre and Groudon are very relevant Pokemon in the Pokemon Go meta. Kyogre is the best water type, Groudon is the best earth type, ground type, however we want to call it. So it seems like common sense that this is the best thing they could throw at us. I guess the downside is that they just thrown it at us so many times as is. And it doesn't help that there is a Gen 3 Hoenn legendary Pokemon that hasn't been thrown out too often, that hasn't had a shiny release, that I'm pretty sure everyone and their grandma wants to see. It may be a Pokemon that turns from green to black and looks like a bad truck dragon or something, just for looting and that. But hey, I personally have not gotten a shiny Kyogre or a shiny Groudon. And I could definitely use more Kyogre candies, and I won't complain about more Groudon candies. So this event works out for me. I can see it working out for people even more casual than me. So I'm kind of surprised, like, that the general consensus is that this event is a snore fest, because, I mean, there's some podcasts I've listened to that have kind of been disappointed about it. But there's also the local communities that I'm in that have expressed their yawnitude towards this event. I don't know though, maybe we'll have something to spice it up in the mix. Plus, we have all of July still, so this won't be completely irrelevant. The whole summer won't be wasted on these legendaries. They gotta put something in for the rest of July and possibly into August. Maybe it'll be something really hype. Speaking of things that'll hopefully be more hype than they appear, Adventure Week is back. Rock-type Pokemon are back. And now they come out 2-kilometer eggs as well. It's weird. I should be more excited because I'm not in a rock-type biome. So it's not like these are a common spawn for me. Oh, right, it's not rock-type spawns, it's ground-type spawns. Even more exciting. I guess part of the issue is, like, ground types are probably one of the least exciting types for me personally. I think the hype is just a matter of fact that none of my favorite Pokemon fall into the ground type. None of my least favorite Pokemon fall into the ground type. And shoutouts to Fanfy for just being an adorable little elephant. But there's, oh man, so many other ground types that I'm just wish to pass. But there's supposed to be a lot of good rock types too. No, I think the real reason that I'm not more hyped about this is just because we've had the same event every other year in Pokemon Go. I guess I was just expecting them to spice it up a little bit. And to be fair, they have. I guess I'm just only excited about the new things and not the old things. Let me go through what we have for incentives and I'll explain what I mean. Increase rock spawns, which, okay, so one part says ground spawns in this description, the other part says rock spawns. I'm going to go with rock spawns because I know they gave specific examples of rock type Pokemon that be increasing in spawns. More rock type Pokemon in raids, which includes Onix. Yay! I wish I could be more excited about reading for Onyxes and probably Tyrantars. But I've definitely solo Onyxes already. And honestly, having Onyxes isn't a bad thing if you're going for PvP. But the hype of soloing an Onix has already been gone a long time ago with me. And I'll get into when I'm not more excited about Larvatars than that. The exciting thing that I'll admit I didn't realize when they first announced this. We're going to get not one, not two, but 3 new shinies in the game. And I'm not just saying like a Pokemon with 2 evolutions. These are 3 distinct Pokemon that have new shiny forms for the game. Onix from Gen 1, Leleep and Anorth, the 2 fossil Pokemon from Gen 3. And of course, if you need more shinies, you can evolve these ones up to their secondary evolutions and get 3 more shinies out of it. They definitely did good here, maybe even too good. Because honestly, like, they didn't need all 3 of these, and no one's gonna complain and go, Oh my god, Niantic, you threw way too many new shinies at us at once. We're gonna uninstall our games. No. No one's gonna go like that, but I really don't. I really think it was, I guess, overkill. Overkill's a good word. They could have easily just introduced either Shiny Onyx or Shiny Lilip / Anorth, and that would have generated enough shiny hype to meet their alleged mandate when it comes to having shinies with events. It's not like you're going to have an increased odd of finding a new shiny just because they introduced 3 new shinies instead of just 1. I guess the other good thing about this is we've had so many rock-type Pokemon shinies that are already in the game. Just to name the ones off the top of my head, I can think of Geodude, Kabuto, Alnamite. All 3 of these are shiny Pokemon that I still need the shinies of. And I guess technically we can include Larvitar, even though it was a community day spawn. Alright, scrolling through the shiny list, I guess there's not that many more rock types, which I guess Niantic does know what they're doing. I guess a good reason for introducing 3 new shiny rock types in one event is because they've caught on to the idea that people are willing to hunt for old shinies as well as new, but there's not that many shiny rock types in the game, because besides the ones I listed already, I'm finding Lunatone and Solrock, which I doubt they're going to increase the spawns of just for this event, because I feel like they've what's the word? Tone down will work, but I'm thinking of something like related to tame, but I'm blanking out on it. Yeah, okay. Fool me once, shame on me. Tell a lie twice, shame on me even more. So we got a Geodude. Shoot, what was the other Gen 1 rock type that's been released? Oh, I guess Shuckle now has a shiny form. There's that too. I'll admit I overlooked that one. So we have Geodude, Alnamite, Kabuto, Chuckle, to name the rock types that aren't new, along with Solrock and Lunatone. But in addition, we now have shiny Onyx, Lilip, and Anorth. So that brings up the shiny pool to hunt around for to maybe like 5. Though I think like 2 of these, I'd be very surprised if they actually increase the odds for. Oh yeah, and Larvitar. I keep forgetting about Larvitar because it's a community day Pokemon. So a lot of people who actually went out for community day already got their fill on Larvitar, especially between the Larvitar community day and that December community day, which had a whole round out of all the Pokemon that appeared in community days, including Larvitar. And before we go over the other rewards, I guess that's part of the reason I'm not more psyched about this event, because I personally got my fill of Larvitars. Yes, it's arguably the most useful Pokemon in Pokemon Go. But I got all the Tyrantars I need for rock types. I got all the Tyrantars I need for dark types. They just feel like they're clogging up my inventory at this point, because I know they're good, so I don't want to get rid of them. And yet, I'll admit that's a bit of a first world problem, but I had to at least get that off my chest. There's definitely other rock types you want to look out for. For one, if you're still working on completing your fossil Pokemon decks for Gen 4, the whole Cranidos and Shieldon lines will at least be popping up in eggs more often in these 2-kilometer eggs that they've given us. But also, if you were stuck on a part of the Melting Quest or something similar that required a fossil Pokemon like Alnamite, Kabuto, Lilip, or Anorth, this is your chance to get them. I personally seen like 5 Anorths, and the event only just started a few hours ago. And I wasn't even really walking outside, just like in the short periods of time that I was walking from like the office to the car, I saw that many. Anyways, we're not even done talking about all the rewards relating to Adventure Week. Here's one that I'd probably be more excited about if I wasn't already level 40. 10 times the experience for spinning stops. So I believe that turns it from like 50 to 500. Don't quote me on that though, I'm not quite sure. And the part that I'm honestly most excited about, an extra reward for getting 50 kilometers in Adventure Sync. If you can walk a total of 50 kilometers from Monday at the start of this event to Monday the day before this event ends, you will get 50,000 Stardust and 15 rare candies. That is pretty darn hype. Plus, the speculation is that you can use a star piece, which increases the Stardust you get on top of that. And ooh boy. Just to give you more casual players some perspective, one of the most expensive actions, at least singular actions, that I can think of you can do in Pokemon Go is power up a legendary Pokemon. Powering up a legendary Pokemon usually takes 100 candies and 100,000 Stardust. So yeah, you're getting half of that just from opening the box. Not even including all the catching you do. Not even including using a star piece. Just from opening the box. This is a little off topic, but it's kind of funny I'm bringing that up now when there was just hype going around the internet because a little while ago, as I was recording this Tuesday, there was some sort of bug in Pokemon Go where instead of 50 candies, legendary Pokemon were only costing like 10 candies, but still having the whole 100,000 Stardust to teach them a second move. And I was considering it, but when I got up, I had to help my folks with some things, and as soon as I got done with that, I checked the game again. They fixed it back to 100. So that barely lasts even an hour. So hopefully at least some of you got an opportunity to take advantage of that. And if not, it's okay because it wasn't intended. So when I say that out loud, that doesn't really help at all. But at least when you do get enough candies, it'll be legit. And to be fair, there aren't really too many legendaries that are worth spending that much Stardust on just to teach a second move, especially when you use that Stardust just to power them up. Majority of legendary Pokemon, you kind of want to just stick with the best charge move that relates with their type anyways. Only exception I can really think of is Mewtwo, and that's only like if you got Mewtwo with Shadow Ball already, but you don't want to remove that legacy move because it is a legit good move. You can use a second move to actually teach it a second move so you can actually have Stab Psychic or something like that. There are a few other weird cases, like if you're doing PvP and let's say you want to use a Raikou but don't want to just have electric attacks, you could like teach it a second move for Shadow Ball or something. But like, in my personal opinion, Mewtwo's the only Pokemon that's really worth having two charge moves. At least that's the legendary. Especially if you're only interested in raiding and not really following the PvP scene. Even with my interest in PvP, I'm not really interested in investing that much candy into teaching a second move. Because the only league I'm really interested in is Great League. And I'm actually on an on and off monthly schedule for it because my goal is to try to get involved in one Silph Arena League every other month. That just seems to be a good compromise between saving my Stardust for Pokemon I want to power up for raids and actually trying to be more involved with the whole PvP scene. Yeah, so to round this all back up, Adventure Week is good. Just not the most exciting event for me personally. And honestly, it just feels like it's more because of how much I've put into this game already and how long I've been in this game. If you're a newer player, this is definitely a real exciting event. And if you have any missing holes in your Pokedex, this is definitely a good opportunity to take advantage of some Pokemon that don't normally pop up too often to finally fill out those holes, especially if your Pokedex is tied behind, I don't know, some sort of special research. Oh, did I mention the Buddy Candy thing? Did I mention how, like, the whole cut the candy distance in quarters is back? That is, like, my favorite thing. So I'm real happy that's back. Yeah, honestly, the whole I'm not too hype about this was more just so first impression. The more you look into it, the better this event gets. And a lot of the, like I said before, the only reason I wasn't as hype as I normally would get for an event is because we've had Adventure Sync already. We've had it 2 years in a row. But just because it's similar to things we've had in the past doesn't mean it's not a good event. Yeah, I can't believe I spent this entire night talking about Pokemon Go events when I was specifically talking about being less on the nose of Pokemon Go news. But hey, this is not an editorial, so I guess, like, the news is a good way to get into other tangents. Speaking of, before I end things off for now and meet up with you guys after Slakoth Community Day, I want to talk a little bit more about Slakoth Community Day because I want to capture my initial impressions before Slakoth Community Day starts, and then come back to you guys after the event and talk about how I feel about it then. After all, I still have to record my editorials for Torchic Community Day, Lapras / Raid Day, and I'm sure there's a couple other Pokemon Go events I'm forgetting about. And that's before even going into the more interesting topics I have for a Fireside chat. So I may still be recording this too early, because minus the Freudian slip of another country's Pokemon Go page, which is technically, I guess, still considered a leak, because they didn't really reveal it officially yet, or at least for more than 5 seconds. We do not know the charge move, or should I say the move in general, for Slakoth Community Day. What we do know for sure is that, per tradition, there'll be 3 hours of Slakoth spawns. You'll be able to find a shiny. The shiny form of Slakoth will be released for this event. A catch distance will be cut by a quarter, which is real exciting in combination with Adventure Sync, where we're getting a focus on 2-kilometer eggs that have rarer Pokemon than usual. And the fact that we'll want to be walking as much as possible as is to try to get that sweet Adventure Sync bonus. One thing I do like about these events is just how well they always seem to coordinate with the community if the two events tend to align. They usually are something like this, where one event complements the others. As per usual, 3-hour lures are things. If you want to be catching Slakoth, don't go using special lures on every single stop, because they will not have as many Slakoth spawn at them as the traditional I should say, lure. And when you evolve your Slakoth all the way to Slaking, it'll learn a special move that is totally not Body Slam. Yeah, I'm gonna bend that no unofficial news thing that I always seem to bend anyways to go more into that. So, a Pokemon Go site. Honestly, all I remember is that it's not America, it's not Europe, and it's not Asia, but some other country's Pokemon Go site accidentally put out on their page early that the special move for Slakoth is Body Slam. Granted, technically this does not confirm that Slakoth's Community Day move will be Body Slam, but it also doesn't deconfirm, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to get too excited until we've had it officially revealed, because they could always change it if they really want to, though I'm not sure why they would want to change it. I can tell you why the community would want it changed, solely because it's not a fast move. Let me dive into Slakoth for those of you who haven't been paying attention to Pokemon for the past couple months since it's been released. Slakoth, in the main series game, is a sloth. Sloths are lazy, so they don't move very fast. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, where it was first introduced, and every game since then, in the main series line, Slakoth has an ability. Abilities, long story short, are little passive effects that Pokemon can have in battles. It's a turn-based game, and normally an ability does not take a move in order to pull off. Usually these abilities complement a Pokemon, but sometimes they take a different approach where a Pokemon is just stupid strong and they intentionally give it a bad ability to handicap it. Slakoth, or more specifically Slaking, is an example of one of these Pokemon. It's a sloth, doesn't move too much, so it has an ability called Truant. Truant turns a Pokemon that would normally attack every turn into every other turn. So one turn you're allowed to attack, the second turn, Slakoth will just loaf around. And it does lead to some interesting dynamics, because you could use a move that's super powerful but needs to be recharged for the following turn, since you pretty much spend that second turn doing nothing either way with Slaking. Or you could be strategic and attack on one of your turns and heal on a second turn. Or where it gets real fun, if you have special moves that change the ability Pokemon have, and you're in a double battle, you could get rid of that Slaking's ability altogether and it just turns into a giant beefcake. I bring all this up because if you play Pokemon Go, you know abilities don't exist. So how do they get around this when they directly translate the stats of all the Pokemon into Pokemon Go? How do they get around with Pokemon that's super powerful, even more powerful than any legendary in the game, that's only kept down to a non-legendary level thanks to its handicapping ability? Well, introduce a handicapping fast move, I suppose. Hence the introduction of Yawn, a move that has some interesting effects in the main series game, but in Pokemon Go does nothing. It only charges you up to do your charge attacks. It does 0 damage. So Slakoth and Slaking are effectively rendered useless unless they're doing a charge attack, which honestly actually handicaps it more than the main series game, but it does keep it from becoming overpowered. Now, some people without common sense thought that we'd actually be getting a new quick move for Slaking, that would get rid of the one thing keeping it from being the most OP thing in the entire game. Normally I'm all for huge shakeups between Pokemon Go and the main series games. After all, I was really hyped for how long Flareon was just so dang powerful in Pokemon Go, considering how, I hate to say it, but pathetic Flareon is in the main series games. But I think taking a Pokemon that people rarely bat an eye to in the main series games and turning it into a beast that's even more powerful than legendary Pokemon might be a little too much of a shakeup. Plus, you're pretty much killing the whole point of the Pokemon. The whole concept of it sometimes doing damage and sometimes not is pretty much the nature that makes Slaking. So even if it becomes the most powerful thing because you get rid of that Yawn quick move, you lose a lot of the spirit of the Pokemon in the process. It's like a reverse Shedinja, where they just plopped it into the game and no one batted an eye because it was completely reliant on an ability. But instead of becoming useless because of lack of an ability, Slaking would become too powerful because of a lack of an ability. Well, I've been spending way too much time just talking about what Slaking is and not, like, predictions for Community Day and that, but we're getting to it. I know some people are talking about, like, Yawn, like, gaining a new secondary effect for Community Day, kind of like how they introduced H and Power having a secondary effect for Manoswine Community Day. And I'll admit, that would be a cool Community Day. That would... Making Yawn a utility move would be interesting. I feel like it might give Slaking a bit too much of an advantage, but it wouldn't be to the point of making it OP. I just think, like, if they do that, they would need to get other Pokemon familiar with Yawn. But they kind of did that with Manoswine Community Day too, where they also introduced Silver Wind for some Pokemon, and God, why am I blanking on the other Ominous Wind? Yeah, they introduced all those right around Manoswine Community Day, so I guess it would make sense that they could introduce moves with status effects during that time frame. I'm just not gonna hold my breath for that, because I'd rather be pleasantly surprised by that than build my hope up for disappointment. I just figured I'd bring it up because it has been in the speculation train, and I do find it an interesting point of perspective. As for what I think going into this particular Community Day, I have been, like, worried, quote unquote, worried about it from the start, but honestly, like, in some senses, I actually look forward to the non-meta relevant community days even more than the meta relevant community days. Long story short, when it's not revolving around meta relevant Pokemon, it gives me more time to do the community day part of community day. Instead of focusing on grinding and all that, I could just chillly walk around, hang out with friends, and not be stressed about anything. I think that in itself will make it fun, especially because I'll still have things to be looking for within the game itself, like the shiny. Though the fact that it's fully evolved form as a shiny is not too eventful, meaning I'll want to keep more of them as the pink Slakoth than the tan Slaking. All incentives to actually, like, keep this more of a casual community day. Plus the walking. I mean, I would say that this would be a more casual community day before that whole adventure sync bonus came out, where if you really want to walk 50 kilometers this week, Jackie King, I know you come close pretty much every other week, but this week you gotta do it. You're gonna kick yourself for a good couple months if you don't get that adventure sync bonus. So yeah, I guess the point I'm getting at is I know I'll have fun no matter how this event turns out, but I think the overall reception of this community is going to revolve way too much on what they do with this exclusive move Slaking in general. Now I'm going to bid you all adieu until after Community Day, because I'll admit I thought I'd be able to record and get a full night's sleep, but I got so caught up talking about the Community Day that it is already like 15 minutes past what I need to be in order to get a good 8 hours of sleep. And I doubt I'm even halfway done with the podcast. Thankfully, the rest of this can wait until after I get back. So, you'll see me in a little bit. I'll see you guys a few days from now, when I've hopefully got my hearts filled to the rim. Another way of saying heart's content and filled up to the rim at the same time, of shiny Slakoths. Or neat Pokemon from the 2 kilometer Adventure Week eggs. Or maybe both. Maybe a shiny from one of those eggs. I forgot one of my goals, at least until I made the goal of trying to do this adventure sync, is to actually get a shiny Pokemon outside of Slakoth for this one. Because back in the days, it's happened to me a couple times, and I was pretty hyped when it did. One time in particular that stands out was the time that I had a community day where I caught like 2 shinies outside of the Shiny Day Pokemon. I think that was separate from the community day that I hatched a shiny Shelter. Both of those were really hype times. And I'd love for it to repeat again, even if it results in me having my 18th millionth shiny Swablu, aka like 5th or 6th. For real now, I will see you guys after I've hopefully had a good Slakoth community day. Before going into my talks about how my community day went, I do want to backpedal a little bit back to my talk on Slaking. I feel like I was a little too harsh on the idea of giving it a fast move. I still stand by the fact that I feel like it would ruin the spirit of the Pokemon unless we had abilities or some other means to replicate the whole it moves slowly, it attacks every other turn. I have read up on it, and the more I look into it, the less likely it seems that Slaking would break the game if it got a fast quick move. I'm honestly not surprised that we didn't get a fast quick move, but the least I can do for being too harsh is to show their side of the story. The two main things that would keep Slaking from being overpowered, even with a quick move, is one, is a normal type, so it doesn't get same time attack bonus with anything besides normal type moves. Leading to point number 2, normal type is more so of defensive type in the sense nothing you do with a normal type is going to give super effective damage, and Pokemon Go every day seems to put more and more emphasis into super effective damage. It's gotten 2 buffs already, to the point where they even nerf same type attack bonus to put more emphasis on super effective damage. Now, mind you, Slaking does have 2 other moves that I can learn that may be able to give it an advantage. One, it has access to Play Rough, which is a pretty good protection against Pokemon that Slaking would be normally weak to. The normal type's only weak to Fighting type, and with Play Rough being one of the better, if not the best Fairy type move in the game currently, it's the ultimate protection against your own weakness you can get. The other charge move, I guess, is Earthquake, which honestly doesn't really have a good use on Slaking as far as I can tell. But it is another option. So this all comes back to the argument of, does giving Slaking a new quick move make it too powerful? And honestly, I'm not quite sure yet, but I've seen more and more arguments saying no, that makes sense. If I can remember, I will link you guys to the particular Reddit article that I found had the most information about this topic, so you can make your own decision. According to this post, they claim it would be powerful, but really only have one specific niche in the Master League of PvP. So with all that out of the way, it kind of becomes more of a, would it break the spirit of the Pokemon to get rid of Yawn, more so than if it'll be too powerful or unpowerful. Honestly though, I'm not surprised that Niantic went with the Body Slam instead of giving it a quick move. Because the whole reason they gave it Yawn in the first place was they didn't have a better option to keep the spirit of the Pokemon. Personally, I think giving a Body Slam is a good compromise between keeping the spirit of the Pokemon not being as prominent as it may seem, but still making it more powerful than before. There are 2 other alternatives I've seen floating around on the internet that have caught my eye though. One, making Yawn a utility move, to the point where in the main series game, Yawn actually wasn't like a Magikarp Splash or something like that. The Pokemon would yawn and makes the other Pokemon yawn, and in the following turn, that Pokemon would fall asleep. I guess some people were speculating with Slaking Community Day that they were going to make Yawn work more similarly to it does in the main series game, which I think would actually be pretty interesting. Granted, it would completely change around what Slaking did in the main series game versus Pokemon Go, because Slaking was a powerhouse when you were able to get it to work. Not really a Pokemon you use technically, but as I said before with talking about Flareon, that I'm all for Pokemon having completely different things in the meta, as long as the spirit of the Pokemon's still there. Like in the main series games, Flareon was always a powerful Pokemon, in the sense that it got a really strong attack. It's basically a glass cannon. However, it didn't really shine too much in the main series game because of the way the mechanics work and the moveset that Flareon was allowed to have. In Pokemon Go, Flareon's high attack stat favors the way Pokemon Go works, so that's what kept it in the top for so long. Even though Yawn would change Slaking from a powerhouse to more of a utility Pokemon, still having Yawn would still lead to the personality of the Pokemon being preserved, even if it behaves significantly differently. So I personally would be a-okay with that. It'd be real interesting to see in action. Last but not least, the other alternative I've seen that's caught my eye is giving it a brand new quick move that did damage, but just moved really slowly. I personally interpreted it as like either it literally moves slowly, like the Pokemon, maybe just like did a quick move every other cycle instead of the every cycle every other quick move has, or that it just powered up your charge moves a lot more slowly. And honestly, I wouldn't want it to be a powerful quick move, because otherwise people would just spam their quick moves and have just as much of an effect. So overall, there's just a lot of different ways that we can handle the Slaking problem, and I'm not even getting into introducing abilities into Pokemon Go. However, I don't think Niantic was ready for that level of detail, revolutionizing the gameplay of Pokemon Go that drastically. So I think Body Slam's an okay compromise, even though it doesn't leave Slaking as powerful as some of these other alternatives that people want would allow Slaking to have. So it's the day after Community Day, and that in of itself probably is an indication of how this went. Certainly been a pretty busy Community Day, probably the longest I've actually been out for one. Pretty funny, all things considering that Slakoth, meta-wise, was as insignificant as we anticipated. And honestly, like, if you look at a paper, Slakoth kind of had all the recipes for a Community Day. Like, the shiny isn't that great. Honestly, though, when I actually look at it on my phone, in comparison to the screenshots, it looks a lot better. Like, you can... that nose is very prominently orange. And the fur is all soft. But, I mean, I can see why some people wouldn't be interested in it. You just put a Slaking, that's the normal one, versus this one, like... unless you're looking dead on the nose, I could see how someone would not even see the difference. But maybe it's just the quality of my phone, but I noticed more distinct things, more subtle things on shiny Pokemon than most people in the community that I'm in. I'm wondering if it had something to do with my phone just displaying it better or something. Anyways, I had a very lucky Slaking Community Day, which is kind of funny because it wasn't shaping out to be that way. Took me a good, almost took me an hour just to get my first. Definitely took me an hour and a half just to get two. But I think the moment where things, my sign of luck, started to turn around was when we went to do a raid. I don't think I've actually talked about it on the podcast yet. But just Friday, the day before Community Day, I did do a few Cresselia raids at the campus and all that. And in the process, I actually ended up getting my own shiny Cresselia. That in itself was a pretty big moment because up to that point, I never got a shiny legendary. Unless you want to count raid day specific events. I never got one with the raw, quote unquote, RNG for a shiny legendary. And I definitely haven't gotten a shiny legendary since that shiny Moltres. Sorry, I had to do a double take in my head just to assure if Moltres or Zapdos was the one that came up next. Anyways, I think you might see where I'm getting at. I go and do this raid, and I got myself a second shiny Cresselia. And honestly, the first one that I got yesterday, I mean, it's not that great, but then again, like, the only thing I see myself using Cresselia for is the Great League, which you have to trade to get its IVs lower anyways. But if only for bragging rights, it's pretty darn cool to actually get this particular Cresselia because its IVs are so good. You can battle with the best of them, attack. I have to double check how much that is in numeric values. But it's definitely one of the better shinies that I could get. And of a legendary to boot. And if you're watching this on video, you may be seeing my shinies on screen now and going, Jack and Kate, what are you talking about having terrible shiny luck? That is a ton of shinies you got there. Well, unless you're a madman, in that case you may be saying, if you were out for so long, how come you didn't get more shinies? But one story at a time. So this third guy I kind of just picked up in between. It was getting to about like the last hour of community day, and we weren't having any good luck in the typical community day area. And I got some things to say about it, but that could probably be a whole thing in and of itself. Long story short though, I feel like it hasn't been as great of a place as it used to be. I think part of it's like the community kind of split off and gone in different areas. Hardcore players, I'm pretty sure, are just driving around the place trying to get as many as they can. Some of the casual players kind of just went to other towns. And I think it's just kind of a snowball effect because spawns are based on how many people are around. If less people come around, there's less spawns, and with there being less spawns, less people show up because they'd rather go someplace with more spawns. That tangent aside, we decided to try to go up to a college that's nearby the area. Try to get some more Slakoths than we were getting around here. Because things were spawning, and they were just like the water boosted stuff that was spawning. And it was a sunny day, so like getting a bunch of grass and fire types. I guess there was field ground types in the mix. But not really too many grass types. Or I mean, not too many ground types in general. So as we were scrolling around, we went up to this campus, and that's when the Slakoth grind really started. Because they were just popping up everywhere at this place. But more so, my shiny like just made a complete 180. I was going like maybe one shiny an hour to like getting 3 or 5 right next to each other. I wonder if I still have the journal entry or if I've caught too many stuff for it to still be a thing. If not, I do have a screenshot. But essentially, I caught 2 shiny Slakoths in a row. Or should I say, found 2 shiny Slakoths in a row. And it was almost 3 shiny Slakoths in a row. But there was a little peeping Tom that came in the mix. Maybe if I say silent long enough, I actually remember to cut this out until I actually find what I'm looking for. Come on, there's a journal entry right here. Yeah. So, right around the last hour, I found a shiny Slakoth, found a Sunkern, not shiny, but just a combo breaker. Then found 2 shiny Slakoths in a row. I think that's the greatest shiny accomplishment I've ever had in the history of man. And speaking of beautiful sights, I think there's something else I want to showcase. First, this particular glorious glitch. For some reason, this community day, the game was having a hard time remembering when you're in the Pokemon screen and when you're not in the Pokemon screen, which resulted in some of the glorious screenshots you're seeing below. That's just a normal egg catch. I'll get to some of those. Here it is. Just want to take a moment to bask in the gloriness of this particular piece of art. Group hug, choke, depending on your perspective. Yeah, that Igglybuff and that Anorith. I think I'll be saving those 2, even though they're trash, just for that glorious moment. With the Igglybuff, I can at least evolve it and send it into Let's Go. But, so at least that's going to be my materia for sure. What else? I had something else on my mind. Oh yeah, community day, lots of shiny luck. If I go back to my screen, that means I had a total of 9 shinies throughout that community day. One of them was a legendary Pokemon. That's a pretty good shiny haul in my eyes. Kind of stinks because I didn't really have a great shiny, but this shiny Slaking here that's pretty well leveled up, pretty close to the highest I'll be getting without the weather boost. That was good enough because be real, the shiny Slaking is more for the novelty's sake. If I can pull up my Slakoths and Vigoroths real quick though, this community was a bit interesting because I know that Slaking isn't really anything remarkable, but I have heard things about Vigoroth in the Great League, so I decided to evolve a couple to try it out, and I may even just evolve a shiny Slakoth later on once I've done some homework. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the meta of PvP, but maybe just enough to actually see which... It depends on how much time, spare time I have. Whether or not I actually go through and actually check it all the way. Or just see which one comes the closest to 1500. And considering how busy I've been lately, probably the latter. I had something in my mind, didn't I? Oh yeah. I decided to try and go for more Vigoroth just for PvP's sake. Still have to finish cleaning up my boxes because all the trade... Kept a few high CP ones for trade fodder, but with the day over, it's kind of no longer significant. I got my super high Slaking with the proper IVs. I can actually I've caught quite a few Slakoths, but I couldn't find one that beats this guy. He's probably pretty well maxed out in level. It's got perfect attack and in pretty high percentiles with the CP and all that. And he's definitely gonna, which the tempting thing about all this is he's gonna be plaguing my screen of top CP Pokemon right in between my Mewtwo and my Kyogre. One, I'm not gonna max him out because I just don't think I could live with that idea of something being more powerful than my Mewtwo. He's already more powerful than he'll ever be. Or should I say the most powerful he'll ever be. I'm going to stop being around the bush. After Community Day was over, I was actually hanging out with a group of friends for the whole time of Community Day. That in and of itself made a really unique experience that kind of made up for any sort of disappointment that people may have over the non-meta relevance of it. After we were done, we decided to actually go out and just eat. Nowhere special, just like your typical generic fast food restaurant that may have a presence on social media. Sorry, I'm just distracted. I'm getting distracted by the silliest things. Can I actually do it? This is gonna be really dumb inception, but I'm gonna do it. There's this little bug. Oh, I think it stopped, but it was like, oh, there it goes. It's wiggling its little feet. It's just so funny. Some could say it's cruel, but then again, it's a bug. I'll put it out of this misery soon. I just got a podcast to finish up. What was I doing before I got distracted by the dumbest thing? Oh yeah, Slakoth, hang out with people. So I did want to try to get a Lucky Slakoth just for sake of tradition. I didn't get a Lucky Torch chick during that community day. Spoilers for when I eventually do that particular editorial. So I tried to do one for this one, and you will never believe this. The first Slakoth I trade, at least after community day was over. I may have done a few trades in between, but not that many. First trade that session, we got the Lucky Slaking. Granted, it's not, I don't know if it's, I forgot to put in an IV checker, but it doesn't look like it'll be that great of a Slaking, but it is lucky, and I pretty much already got a good Slaking. I probably have more Slakings than most people would ever need. So we went over there, did our fast food joint shenanigans. That was it. Like, I feel like I've summarized it a little too much, because it did take a while. I guess, like, when we stopped by Walmart, because a couple people in the group are real into Pokemon cards, they want to pick some up while we were out in the area. I took this pretty cute picture of Pichu, if I remember to actually put it in. Hint, hint. If I could trust you to edit, I wouldn't keep going into this camera roll, Jacket K, and we wouldn't have to worry about some accidentally pulling up a picture on video that you don't actually want people to see. If you actually remember to edit the podcast, we wouldn't be going through this. Oh yeah, let me scroll through Slaking pictures while I'm here, because I could have sworn there's some... Oh yeah, while I was on my unlucky streak, I had the most dumb thing happen. So I've been getting these 10-kilometer eggs, and I'll be real with you guys. There's one thing I just want so badly. I just want the freaking Gibble. I think it's like it's the... Feels like I've done so much for it. I still don't have one yet. So I have this 10-kilometer egg that I got during community day and started hatching. It wiggles. It wiggles. And if you can guess from the screenshots I'm showing you guys, it was a Slakoth. Yeah, I hatched a Slakoth from 10-kilometer egg I got on Slakoth community day. And no, don't worry, it wasn't any good. There wasn't like a silver lining to this or anything like that. An honorable mention to the Shinx that I hatched from the 10-kilometer egg. Just as much disappointment, but a whole lot less irony. Which is a shame, because Shinx, I like Shinx. Don't get me wrong. Just, I got so many Shinx already that I'm just kind of at the point where if it's not shiny, I'm not interested in seeing it. So you got like 54 Shinx. So between raids and egg hatching, I've done 54 Shinx, still no shiny. I'm sure some people have gone even longer of a dry spell without a shiny Shinx. And since I'm about at the end of my community day story talks anyways, let me throw one more story at you guys. One that probably was behind the scenes of the Universal Studio vlog stuff. So, Universal Studio had some raids because it's a huge populated area, so why wouldn't it? And among those stuff was Shinx. Now, normally I'm the only one in the household that plays Pokemon Go, but I pretty much insisted that my sisters actually at least download the game and pull it up, because we'd be in such a huge opportunity for Pokemon Go stuff. After all, even if not from the perspective of trying to get more people to play with and only from selfish perspective, it doesn't hurt to have a couple people that you have close contact with that have regionals in their storage. But it's more so just to get other people interested in the game, because I feel like if I was ever going to get anyone interested in Pokemon Go, it would be for this. With it all sorts of everywhere. Oh, an honorable mention to the Dratini I hatched. It's a shame that I just got so many Dratinis and family that I'm not really interested in them anymore. Back in tangent though. One of the last raids we did before we went back home from Universal Studios was a Shinx raid at the Globe. Honestly, it wasn't even did it together. I snuck over and did the raid while they were at the bathroom because I just assumed that they weren't going to do it because they were not that into the game. But then, like, as we were trying to get a picture, I noticed my sister was trying to sneak in the raid. And she did it. And she got the shiny Shinx on her first one. She never even got a Shinx before the point. So, my 50 plus Shinx of hatching and catching, still no shiny. I had to talk her into even playing the game. She does one Shinx raid and gets the shiny. And she still will occasionally shove it in my face just to rub it in because she knows how much it annoys me. But I only brought that up because I know it makes for a funny story. And wow, I definitely dragged out this community day talk a bit longer than I suspected. I'm not even really doing anything interesting with the game, am I? For those of you audio listeners, I decided to just try to have a screen capture of Pokemon Go running while I'm talking. Just so there's something a little more interesting for people watching. But, I guess I got so distracted with talking that it doesn't really seem to be working out that way. I feel like there's I'm sorry I keep stalling the end, but I feel like there's something I'm forgetting, but I just can't seem to remember. I could always just add it in later if it's the case, though. But for now, thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the Pokemon Go Fireside Chat. I'm your host, Jackie K, and if you enjoy what you see, be sure to subscribe on the audio platform that you're listening to this to. Especially if that platform is YouTube, because I do sorts of contents on there beyond just podcasting and doing Pokemon Go. I try to keep my Wednesdays with a playthrough series of some sort, so if you enjoy gaming in general, you might see something you like there. Best way to keep getting in contact with me is via Twitter, at JacketStuff, spelled the same way as Jacket K is, but take that K and replace it with some stuff. Alternatively, I have a website that you can find all the various things I do online in one general place, including the social media platforms that I'm on. And since I got my computer right handy here, I'll just read out the URL instead of telling you to go check the show notes. It is do not put the www in. You just do JacketK, at wixsite.com/JacketK. That'll take you to the home page. I have blog there, which I use to post announcements related to the online content I do, especially changes to the schedule. You can see my Twitter feed there, so if you don't have a Twitter account, you can just go to the site anytime and read the Twitter feed for that. And it's got little links to the various stuff I do. And section off, if you're only interested in Pokemon Go, you can just go to the Pokemon Go tab over here and see the stuff there. If you want to see the cosplay pictures I've taken, there's a section for that as well, as well as information on videos and etc. Granted, I'll admit some of these sections I gotta go in and update. I just get so busy with all the other content I create. But in general, the homepage will have an updated schedule of what I'm doing online and all the news you need. With all that said, I hope to see you all for the next one. Take care.